Good evening, students. Welcome all of you in our civics class. So today we are going to continue the same chapter of class 10 civics chapter 2, that is federalism. In our previous class, we have already discussed about the state list, union list and residuary subject and concurrent list. So today we'll continue after that. So let's get started. Now, first of all, we will start with special status, okay? States which have special status. What are those? Now, most federations that are formed by holding together do not give equal power to its constituent units. Thus, all the states in the Indian Union, they do not have identical powers. Some states enjoy special status, okay? Some states, they enjoy a special status. Now, what are those states? States such as Assam, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram, okay, they enjoy special powers by the Indian Constitution. So, under certain provisions of Indian Constitution, Article 371, must remember, okay, Article 371, it has been clearly specified in our Indian Constitution under the Article 371 that these states will get some special status, okay. Why? Because of their peculiar social and historical circumstances. These special powers are specially enjoyed in relation to the protection of land rights of indigenous people, their culture and also their preferential employment in government services. Now, what special status these states are getting? Okay, first of all, you can see regarding their land rights, okay, next their culture, and the third is employment, okay. So regarding these issues, these states are getting special status by our Indian Constitution. Now, those who are not Indians, who are not permanent resident of these states, they cannot buy land or house or any kind of property there, okay. So these are some of the rules. Now, similar special provisions also exist for some other states of India as well, okay. Now, let's see about Union territories, okay. What is the meaning of union territory? Now, there are some units of Indian Union which enjoy very little power. That means these areas which are too small to become an independent state, but which could not be merged with any of the existing state, okay. So these areas, like example Chandigarh, Lakshadweep and the capital city of Delhi, okay. So they are called union territories. Now these territories, they do not have the powers of a state, okay, and the central government here has the special powers in running these areas. So who has the power? Central government to run this union territories, okay. So this sharing of power between the union government and the state government is basic to the structure of Indian Constitution, and it is not easy to make changes to this power sharing, okay, as we have already studied in the key feature of federalism that alone or unilaterally a single level of government or a tier of government cannot make any changes in the fundamental provisions of the Indian Constitution, okay. So this is not so easy to make any changes. So the parliament cannot on its own change this arrangement. Any change, it has to be first passed by both the houses of parliament with at least 2/3 majority, okay. So any changes, it required 2/3 majority must be there by both the houses of parliament. That means both houses of parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So if any changes are required, there must be a consent of at least 2/3 majority by both the houses of parliament. Clear? And it has to be ratified by the legislature or at least half of the total states, okay. So this is the requirement. Next, coming to the role of judiciary, okay. What role a judiciary play? As we know, judiciary means the court system. Okay, so its role, in overseeing the implementation of constitutional provisions and procedure. As we know, it interpret the true meaning. That means explain the true meaning of Indian Constitution, whatever is mentioned or specified. So in case, and also it act as a umpire or a mediator in solving the dispute, right? So in case of any dispute arises between, arises between the central government, state government, okay, so it has the role to solve the problem, to solve the dispute. And so in case of any dispute about the division of powers, the High Court and the Supreme Court, it can make a decision. And the union and the state government have the power to raise the resources also by levying taxes, imposing taxes in order to carry on the government, right? And the responsibilities assigned to each of them. This is also a rule and a requirement. Okay. So let's come. Judicial role is clear, children. And also we have understood here the special status states and the union territories. Now let's come to another topic, that is, how is federalism practiced in India? Okay. Okay, so here let's see constitutional provisions, okay, as we have in our Indian Constitution. So these provisions are necessary, for the success of federalism, but these are not sufficient. Okay, even if the federal experiment has succeeded in India, it is not merely because of the clearly laid out constitutional provisions. The real success of federalism in India can be attributed to the nature of democratic politics in our country. This ensured that the spirit of federalism, respect for diversity, and desire for living together became shared ideals in our country. Now we have to look that what are the major ways in which this happen. Okay, some ways are there, means some challenges are there, how to form state. Okay, so first we will see linguistic state. First step is linguistic states. Okay, so linguistic states means what? That is the linguistic means, children, language basis. Okay, so the creation of linguistic states was the first and a major test for democratic politics in our country. Now, if we look at the political map of India, when it began its journey as a democracy in 1947, and that of 2019, you will be surprised quite by the extent of the changes. Okay, huge changes were there. So many old states have vanished, and many new states have been created. Areas, boundaries, and the name of the state have also been changed. And in 1947, the boundaries of several old states of India were changed in order to create new states. Okay, some new states were created. Now this was done to ensure that the people who spoke the same language lived in the same state. Okay, so on the basis of language, states were created. Okay, and some states were also created not on the basis of language, but to recognize the differences which is based on culture, ethnicity, and geography. Okay, so some states were created on the basis of culture, ethnicity, and geography. Now states like Nagaland, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, okay, these were some of the states, means examples, okay, which were created on the basis of their culture, ethnicity, and geography. Okay, now when the demand for the formation of states on the basis of language was raised first time, some national leaders, they were in fear. What was the fear? That it would lead to disintegration of the country. Okay, that the country might be separated. So the central government resisted linguistic states, means creation of states on the basis of language. Okay, for some time it stopped, but the experience, it has shown that the formation of linguistic states has actually made the country more united. Okay, so this is not a failure. We'll say this is a success only for our country because it has made the country more united. So on the basis of language, it's a huge success only. Okay, next we have language policy. Okay, language policy. So this is the second test or a demo we can say for Indian Federation language policy. That means our constitution, Indian constitution, it did not give the status of national language to any one language. Okay, you must remember this thing. This is very important because many of them doesn't know that our constitution did not give the status of national language to any one language. Okay, any one language, it is not giving the status of national language. Because many of you know that Hindi is our national language, but it has not been mentioned or specified in our Indian constitution that Hindi is our national language. Okay, so our constitution did not give the status of national language to any one language. Hindi was our official language. Okay, Hindi was identified as the official language, but Hindi is the mother tongue of only 40% of the Indians. Therefore, there were many safeguards to protect other languages also. Besides Hindi, you'll see, besides Hindi, there are 21 other languages which was recognized as scheduled language, okay, by our Indian constitution. So like example, if a candidate is giving an examination which was conducted for central government post, okay, so he or she may opt to take the examination in any of these languages. Okay, in any languages he or she might get, okay, this facility. Okay, he can opt for any language, any of these scheduled languages. States too have also their own official languages. So much of the government work takes place in the official language of the concerned state, of that particular state. So unlike Sri Lanka, the leaders of our country adopted a very cautious attitude in spreading the use of Hindi. Okay, as in Sri Lanka we have seen the case how this Sri Lankan government has taken that preferential policy to spread the means to promote Sinhalese language, right? Sinhala language. So what happened at last? Civil war took place. So for that reason, our Indian leaders were very, very cautious and careful so that it doesn't, does not to take any preferential policy, means not to give importance to any particular, means a single language, so that it should not lead to disintegration, or it might lead to any kind of conflict in the country. So according to Indian constitution, the use of English for the official purposes was to stop in the year 1965. Okay, so remember this. In 1965, our Indian constitution, it has declared that the use of English to be stopped in the year 1965. But after that, what happened? Many non-Hindi speaking states, they demanded that the use of English should continue. Like for example, in southern part of our country, like in Tamil Nadu, okay. In Tamil Nadu, this movement took a violent form, okay, because those are non-Hindi speaking states. So this movement took a violent form, and the central government at last, it responded by agreeing to continue the use of English along with Hindi. So both Hindi and English languages were regarded as official languages, and it can be used for official purposes, both Hindi and English, okay, after the protest or the violence. Okay, now many critics think that this solution favored the English speaking elite, but as we are living in a democratic country, so our government has taken a very smart decision. Both the languages should be given preference. Now promotion of Hindi continues to be the official policy side by side And but the central government can impose Hindi on the states where people can speak a different language. Okay, so promotion, it doesn't mean so. So the flexibility is shown by our Indian political leaders, which help our country to avoid any kind of situation which we have already seen in Sri Lanka. So this is a smart decision by our Indian government. Next we have center state relation. Okay, that is a relation between central and state government. Now we'll see here that for a very long time the same party ruled both at the center and in many of the states. Okay, this means that the state government did not exercise their right as autonomous. Okay, so the state government is under the control or dominance of central government for a very long time or period, as and when the ruling party at the state level was different, and the parties that rule at the center try to undermine the powers of the state. So in those days, the central government often misuse, okay, central government often misuse the Indian constitution to dismiss the state government. Okay, but this totally changed after 1990. What happened after 1990? This period saw the rise of many regional political parties. Okay, so this was the beginning of era, means the time period of coalition government. Okay, now what is the meaning of coalition government? It's written in your book. Means the government formed by coming together of at least two or more political parties. Okay, when two or more political parties, they join together, united to form a particular political party to win the election, that is called coalition government. Okay, so after 1990, coalition government began to emerge, and it means that now the state government also has become autonomous. Okay, it got its freedom. Now the central government is not going to dominate over the state government. Okay, so this is also very good thing which took place in our country. Now next we have another topic which is very important, children. This is very, very important. The topic is decentralization in India. Okay, so decentralization in India, what is it? Let's come to the definition of decentralization. It means that when power is taken away from the central government and state government, okay, and it is given to the local government. Okay, this is known as decentralization. Okay, so as we have already studied that, first of all, means originally our Indian constitution has provided for a two-tier of government, that is two level of government, central government and state government, but later on a third tier of government was added. Okay, so that is only the local government. So when power is taken away from central government, means both the central and state government will share its power, okay, with the local government. This is called decentralization, which is very, very important. Okay, now the basic idea, what is the basic idea behind this decentralization, why it has been done? Because there are large number of problems and issues which are best settled at the local level. Okay, to solve the problem of the people, means of the localities, this decentralization took place because people have better ideas of the localities and their problem, where to spend the money and how to manage the thing efficiently. For that reason, local government has been formed, and it is not possible for the PM, means Prime Minister, or the central government, they should come and visit our localities to find out what kind of problems we have and to sort out. Okay, for that reason, local government has been formed to solve the problem of the localities. Okay, now, and here the people can directly participate in decision making. Okay, so this is the reason why decentralization took place. And we have panchayat in the rural areas like villages, whereas in urban areas, means in cities and towns, we have municipalities and municipal corporations. But one more thing, local government, they did not have any powers before. Okay, they did not have any powers or resources before. They are under the control of state government. So a major step took place in the year 1992. A major step took place in the year 1992. Okay, So why? To make the third tier of democracy more powerful, to make the third level of government more powerful, means the local government. Okay, now what are the steps taken? First we'll see, it is constitutionally mandatory to hold regular elections to the local government bodies. Okay, that means it is compulsory or mandatory that regular elections to be held for the local government bodies, and it is constitutionally mandatory, means it has been specified by the Indian Constitution. Next we have that the seat must be reserved for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and OBC, that is other backward classes, in the elected bodies in the local government. Okay, the seat must be reserved for these categories. Now third is that at least 1/3 of all the positions are reserved for the women. Okay, 1/3 position must be reserved for the women. Now fourth one is that an independent institution called State Election Commission. Okay, State Election Commission has been created in each state to conduct the panchayat and municipal election. Okay, so State Election Commission must be there to conduct the elections of panchayat and municipal corporations or municipalities. Next, the state government are required to share some powers and revenue with the local government bodies. Okay, the state government must share its powers and also revenue, means the taxes, sources of taxes, with the local government bodies to make them financially independent. Okay, to make them financially strong. So these were some of the steps which were taken in the year 1992 to make the third level of government more powerful. Okay, so these are very important, go through it. Next we have rural local government, okay, which is popularly known as Panchayati Raj. Okay, what is Panchayati Raj? Rural local government. That is another term. Now each village or a group of villages has a Gram Panchayat. Okay, each village or a group of villages, in some state has a Gram Panchayat. Now it has a council which consists of several ward members. They were known as Panch and a president or Sarpanch. Okay, they are directly elected by all the adult population living in that ward or village. So this Panch and Sarpanch, they were directly elected by whom? By the population who were living in that area or ward. So it is the decision making body for the entire village. Okay, decision making body for the entire means for the whole village. Now the panchayat, it works under the overall supervision of whom? Of the Gram Sabha. Okay, Gram Sabha is going to supervise the Gram Panchayat, and all the voters in the village are the members of Gram Sabha. It has to meet at least, means meetings were held in the Gram Sabha at least twice or thrice in a year to approve the annual budget of Gram Panchayat and to review the performance of Gram Panchayat. Okay, so for this reason meetings were held in the Gram Sabha. Now the local government structure goes upright to the district level also. Okay, so what is here? Let's see. A few Gram Panchayat are grouped together to form a panchayat samiti or block or mandal. Okay, so few Gram Panchayat, they group together to form a panchayat samiti, or which is also called block or mandal. Now the members of this body are elected by all the panchayat members in that area, and all the panchayat samitis or mandals, they group together to form what? To form the Zila Parishad. Okay, that is also called district. Zila means district. Okay, so most members of this Zila Parishad are elected, and members of Lok Sabha and MLA also of that district, and some officials of some other district level bodies are also the members of Zila Parishad. Now Zila chairperson. Okay, Zila Parishad chairperson is the head of Zila Parishad. Who is the head? That is chairperson. Okay, Zila Parishad chairperson is the political head of Zila Parishad. Now similarly, local government bodies exist for urban areas also, like we have municipalities and municipal corporations. Okay, so both municipalities and corporations are controlled by elected bodies consisting of people's representative. Now who is the head of municipal corporation or municipality? Let's see. Municipal chairperson is the head of municipality, whereas mayor is the head. Okay, is the head of municipal corporation. So we have gone through the structure of local government, okay, structure of panchayat. So all these, the structure we have studied, that how this panchayat, what is a gram panchayat, gram sabha, zila parishad, and who were the members of it and how it was elected, okay. But in spite of this, there was some negative side also. What is that? There were so many difficulties, because you see, elections are held regularly, but gram sabhas elections are not held regularly, and most state government, they have not transferred their powers to the local government. So nor they have given adequate resources, means the source of taxes. So we are still living a long way from realizing the ideal of self government. So this is the some of negative impact, or the side we can say, of local government. But still, we have the structure of local government, and in our Indian constitution it has been clearly specified about decentralization, which is a very very good step, we can say, which has been taken in our in our country, and which is very very important. So this is all about decentralization. So I hope today's topic is clear to you. Today's session, whatever we have discussed, like how federalism is practiced, okay, before also we have discussed about the special status states, about the role of judiciary, then union territories, and how is federalism practiced, where we have discussed about the linguistic states, language policy, okay, that is states were formed on the basis of language, center state relation, okay, coalition government we have discussed, where, and the most important topic, that is decentralization in India, how it took place and why, okay. So these were the topics of today's session. I hope all of you have enjoyed. So thank you for watching. Please support us, and side by side study well, children. And this is all for the topic. Thank you everyone, and goodbye to all of you. Take care.